Imagine waking up tomorrow and discovering that 1/3 of China's economy, the second largest power in the world, has simply come to a halt. Not because of a virus. Not because of a war. But because of something many people still believe is the safest investment in the world: real estate. Does it sound like an exaggeration? Well, know that, right now, thousands of construction projects have been abandoned, millions of Chinese citizens are refusing to pay their mortgages, and trillions of dollars have simply vanished. And the worst part, this crisis won't stay in China. It's going to ripple across the world, including to you, who are just starting to invest. So stick with me until the end, because I'm going to show you why this crisis is far more dangerous than the pandemic, and how you can use it to your advantage, even with little money in your pocket. For years, the Chinese government encouraged the uncontrolled construction of real estate. Apartments were sold before even leaving the drawing board, and families bought them not to live in, but to store value. It was as if everyone believed the real estate market could only go up. And by believing in that so strongly, they created a massive bubble, a bubble of confidence. But confidence is fragile. And when it breaks, everything breaks. Companies like Evergrande, which alone owed over $300 billion, collapsed. And the crisis began to spread like wildfire. You know that feeling of, "This could never happen to me?" That's exactly how a bubble begins to burst. By the way, if you're enjoying this content and want to receive more videos like this, with real market alerts, simple explanations, and practical strategies for those starting to invest, go ahead and hit the like button now. That shows me this kind of content makes sense for you, and it helps YouTube show this video to more people who also need to wake up. Back to the crisis. China has an economic model that revolves around the construction sector. More than 25% of the country's GDP depends on it. When you remove that gear from the system, everything starts to jam. People stopped paying their mortgages because the properties were never delivered. Banks went on high alert. International investors fled. And the government started printing money in an attempt to save the market. Sound familiar? Exactly. The pandemic showed how governments try to hold back crises with emergency measures. But the side effects come later, and they come hard. The scariest part is that the Chinese real estate market was, until recently, considered one of the safest in the world. Investors from all over the globe put money into it, including funds that operate in Brazil. Which means, even if you've never bought a property in your life, even if you don't even know what Evergrande is, your money could be indirectly exposed. And if you haven't started investing yet, this is the moment to understand the #1 rule of the game. Risk always exists. The only way not to be caught off guard is by studying, staying informed, and learning to build a solid portfolio from the very beginning. If you're not subscribed to the channel yet, take this opportunity to click the subscribe button. Here, I bring weekly videos that get straight to the point, no fluff, with everything you need to know to build financial freedom in a smart and secure way, even starting from zero. Now pay attention to something important. Crises like this are warning signs. But they're also opportunities in disguise. When everyone is afraid, that's exactly when the biggest chances to grow appear. Remember Warren Buffett's famous quote? "Be fearful when others are greedy, and be greedy when others are fearful." That's it. When a bubble bursts, asset prices plummet. And those with strategy and vision can buy cheap what everyone else is selling in panic. And no, you don't need millions in the bank to do that. You need intelligence, discipline, vision. You need to know that this game isn't about getting the perfect timing, but about building a solid journey, step by step. Start with an emergency fund. Then, learn the basics of fixed income. Then, understand what real estate funds, stocks, ETFs are, and how diversification protects your money in uncertain times. To make it easier, think of your financial life as a house. The foundation is your emergency fund. The walls are low-risk investments. And the roof is made of the higher return opportunities, riskier, but only reachable once your base is ready. The mistake many people make is starting straight from the roof. And then, when the strong wind comes, like the China crisis, everything collapses. Don't be that person. If you made it this far, comment the word "focus" below. That way I'll know who's truly committed to their financial future. And take the opportunity to share this video with a friend who still thinks real estate is a guaranteed investment. Because good knowledge is shared knowledge. While the world watches the downward graphs of China's real estate market, something even more powerful and invisible is happening. The people have started to speak. In a country where silence is imposed as a form of order, small whispers have turned into digital screams. Millions of unemployed young people, families left homeless due to unfinished buildings, and retirees who lost their savings have united to protest. Not in public squares, but on private networks, in videos that last just seconds before being taken down. Censorship can no longer erase the pain. And this new generation, born under the promise of communist prosperity, is beginning to realize that stability was a financed illusion. The economic crisis exposed a much bigger crack: trust in the political structure. And once faith is shaken, no regime remains intact. Would you trust your money with a bank that could be shut down overnight? Well, that's exactly what's happening in China. Regional banking institutions, once seen as pillars of the local economy, are freezing the accounts of everyday citizens. People who worked their entire lives are waking up to find they can't withdraw a single cent. No warning, no explanation. Authorities claim internal investigations, but the truth is far darker. The banks simply ran out of liquidity. The collapse of the real estate sector, which backed most of these institutions' assets, pulled back the curtain, and behind it was creative accounting sustained by hope. Once again, trust was broken. And in a culture where saving is like a religion, this collapse represents not just a financial crisis, but a moral one. For decades, the Chinese Communist Party guaranteed growth in exchange for obedience. But that invisible contract is falling apart. The numbers no longer lie in favor of the regime. Slowed growth, skyrocketing youth unemployment, and an entire generation without prospects. What was once national pride is now a source of frustration. The promise of economic ascension, which upheld the party's legitimacy, shattered along with the real estate bubble. And when one party, in this case, the government, stops honoring the deal, the people begin to reassess their role. Authority no longer comes from ideology. It comes from results. And when the party stops delivering, it stops ruling. That is the new reality haunting Beijing's regime, the end of fear as a tool of control. The global media talks about Beijing and Shanghai, but the real crisis is happening in the small cities of the interior. Ghost towns are emerging where once there were promises of prosperity. Entire families are migrating to rural areas, abandoning apartments that were never completed. Schools are closing. Hospitals are operating without resources. Businesses are disappearing. These regions, which once supported China's large-scale growth, now reveal the cost of artificial development. What was supposed to be progress has turned into despair. The collapse of small cities is not just an isolated detail, it is the thermometer of a system that is bleeding from the inside out. China dominates the world of technology on many fronts. But one of the most advanced and frightening is its social surveillance AI. The regime doesn't just block keywords in real time, it also tracks behaviors considered unstable by authorities. Did you post something unusual? The algorithm detects it. Did you chat about a protest? The system intercepts it. And now, as the population grows more outraged, this digital repression has evolved to a new stage: silent banishment. No warning, no legal process. Just disappearance. And the most concerning part is, while the world debates digital freedom in the West, in China, it never existed, and now it's being deleted with a click. On the outside, Xi Jinping appears unshakable. But within the party, his leadership is starting to be questioned. His extreme centralization of power, even altering the constitution to stay in office indefinitely, created a political bubble as dangerous as the real estate one. When things were going well, he was seen as the architect of success. Now, as the country sinks into multiple crises, his allies are beginning to distance themselves. Internal disputes within the party are more tense than ever. She bet everything on absolute control. But in chaotic times, even the most loyal begin to question the commander. And history shows, centralized regimes don't fall slowly. They collapse all at once. Chinese youth are facing something unprecedented, a crisis of purpose. Even with diplomas in hand, millions of young people simply cannot find jobs. And those who do are earning wages that barely cover the basics. This generation grew up hearing that studying was enough to succeed. But now, they find themselves stuck at home, watching the economy collapse. Many have given up looking for work. Others survive doing odd jobs or move back in with their parents. This is not just an economic problem. It's a social time bomb ready to explode. Without a future, without income, and without perspective, this youth is beginning to question the very system, and with that, they're planting the seed of a silent revolution. China has always been a master at controlling its image. And that includes manipulating statistics. The GDP. Inflated. Unemployment. Underreported. Public debt. Hidden behind disguised bonds. All to maintain the narrative of stability. But now, with the crisis reaching global proportions, these lies are starting to fall apart. International analysts have already detected glaring inconsistencies in China's economic reports. Transparency was never a priority. But in times of collapse, the lack of it becomes a worsening factor. Because when the world finds out the numbers were fake, international trust vanishes, and along with it, investments. For years, China's growth was driven not only by exports but also by internal consumption. Now, that engine is stalled. Fearful families, unemployed youth, collapsing businesses. The result? Consumption has stopped. Shopping centers that were once packed have turned into deserts. Traditional retailers are shutting down. And most symbolically, e-commerce, once a national pride, is already showing signs of slowdown. When a country stops consuming, it stops spinning. And without internal consumption, not even technology can keep the machine running. With the collapse of the real estate market, the banks, and even the Chinese stock market, investors have begun looking for a new safe haven, gold. Demand for physical bars has skyrocketed. Currency exchange houses are out of stock. Gold, a millennial symbol of protection, has returned to the center of the strategy for those trying to survive the storm. This movement reveals one thing. No one trusts the official financial system anymore. Not even the wealthiest. The gold rush is the pure reflection of fear, but also of silent preparation for a scenario where traditional money might no longer be worth anything. The crisis in China doesn't just affect the Chinese. It's contaminating global trust in emerging markets. Investors now think twice before investing in any country that follows an artificial growth model. Authoritarian governments, questionable statistics, debt-based growth, all of that has become a red flag. China was the example. Now it's the warning. And its effects could spread to Brazil, India, Turkey, and other economies that bet on bubbles to appear strong. The loss of trust in one giant might be the beginning of a new era of extreme caution. No empire lasts forever. And the Chinese Communist Party is beginning to show clear signs that it's entering its final act. The explosive mix of economic crisis, social unrest, internal corruption, and loss of trust is eroding the foundations of the regime. Some experts are already talking about disintegration into blocks. Provinces that may seek autonomy. Local leaders who refuse to obey orders from Beijing. A new silent civil war may be brewing. Because when fear no longer works and hope disappears, collapse becomes a matter of time. Finally, remember this, financial freedom doesn't come from luck. It comes from decision. The crisis in China is just one more proof that the world changes too fast for those who aren't paying attention. But for those who are alert, for those who choose to learn instead of run, the future is full of possibilities. And you have everything it takes to be part of that group, starting now. If this video made sense to you, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and come with me on this journey. Because I'm going to show you, step by step, how to build your financial freedom even if you're starting from absolute zero. I'll see you in the next video.